Well, in World War I, President Wilson once the United States entered World War I, President Wilson, of course, engaged in the mobilization, trying to gain broad public support for the war. There were many Americans who were opposed to entrance into World War I. Socialists, many labor leaders, anarchists, many German Americans that was the largest ethnic group in the United States, German Americans, and many of them were sympathetic to Germany and did not want the United States fighting Germany. So there was a lot of opposition, and Wilson felt that opposition to American involvement was going to weaken the war effort. Congress passed these laws in 1917 and 18, the Sedition Act and the Espionage Act, particularly the Espionage Act, which basically made it illegal to say anything against the government, anything which criticized the government, which brought the government into disrepute, as the law said. In other words, if you said, hey, the president's not doing a good job, well, that's bringing him into disrepute, which criticized the economic system of the country. Those were now all made federal crimes. And many people were arrested under the Sedition and Espionage Act for criticizing the draft, for criticizing the war. What happens in this circumstance is that other groups use the opportunity to sort of fight old battles against old enemies. Employers use this to get labor leaders arrested. The IWW, radical laborites, arrested, not because what they said about the war. The employers realized that didn't make any difference. It was because they wanted them out of their factories, out of their labor organizing. And the government raided the offices of radical labor unions. After the war, they deported hundreds of anarchists. Many people were put in jail. Socialists were arrested. Socialists were barred. Socialists elected to the New York Assembly were barred from taking their seats. There was a massive suppression of freedom of expression, probably the worst in all of American history in World War I, ironically presided over by President Wilson, who claimed that the war was meant to make the world safe for democracy. Somehow this contradiction seems to recur in American history. Wars in the name of democracy and freedom seem to go hand in hand with restrictions on those very freedoms at home.